That dreaded feeling. You keep adding to your to-be-read list of books and it starts to dawn on you. There is just no way you're going to read all of these books before the end of your lifetime. Or is there? If you're anything like me, you felt that soul-crushing feeling of knowing that there are books you're never going to read, even though you want to. Books that may end up sitting unread on your shelves, or books you're just never going to read for whatever reason. All that unaccessed knowledge, all those unread stories. It may sound dramatic, but if you're a book lover, then you know. You just know. No matter how many books are on your TBR, you probably feel in some way you may never get through the whole list. You could have thousands of books you want to read, under 200 like me, or just a handful. No matter how many are, you may feel like there is that same sense of dread. I mean, what if you never get through that list? Enough is enough. I'm personally sick of that feeling, so here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to address why getting to TBR 0 feels impossible. Spoiler alert, because it is. Then we're going to talk about some ways we can get as close to TBR 0 as possible. Let's first address the elephant in the room. Getting your to-be-read list of books down to 0 feels impossible because it is. I don't think there's any avid reader on the face of the planet who has actually read through their entire TBR simply because there's a limit to how many books you can actually read in your lifetime. It's a sad fact of life, and trust me, I wish I could change it, but our jobs, schoolwork, life commitments, children means our time is split between our responsibilities and how we spend our free time. Even if you're blessed with a job that allows you to read, you still likely don't have as much time as you'd like to read. If my TBR is 157 books and I read about 1.5 books a week, it will take me around 2 years to get through my existing TBR. It may seem doable on the surface, but that TBR doesn't stay the same number and just go down, it fluctuates. For example, one week I might add 5 new books to my TBR, but if I'm reading 1.5 during that week, my TBR isn't going to go down, it's going to go up. Essentially, you probably find that you add to your TBR quicker than you can actually read through it. So you're going to have some trouble reducing it no matter what. If, however, you find that you have more time due to having fewer commitments and so read more, you might find that you add more books to your TBR naturally, so it's long no matter what. There are only a few people I know who have very short TBRs, say under 20 books. But even these people, if they're avid readers, will add more books once they reach a very low number. Even they never really get through their TBR. So if reaching TBR 0 is impossible, pretty much, is there really any point in trying to reduce it? I don't know about you, but looking at my TBR can be a little overwhelming. There are a lot of books there I want to read, and while I understand that TBR 0 might be impossible, I still want to give it a good try. After all, what lights a fire more than a tasty goal? If you're like me and you enjoy ticking off your to-do list, you love the feeling of removing a book from your TBR because you did the difficult thing. You read it. So while the overall goal is impossible, the little wins along the way are worth it. If the overall goal is worth striving for, then how can we get as close as possible? Now let's get into the fun part, taking a close look at your TBR and reducing its number. Here's how we'll do it. Number 1, tidy up your TBR. This may seem like a cheats way to reduce your TBR, but honestly, when was the last time you did it? This could be your TBR on Goodreads, the Storygraph, a spreadsheet you keep up with, a list in your notepad, you get it. I bet there are books out there you don't actually want to read, or you're just not as excited as you once were. There may be books now that have bad reviews or just don't appeal to you anymore. Do yourself a favor and remove them from your TBR. I did this recently and it felt so good. I didn't reduce it by a huge amount, but I removed some books that had been sitting there for years. Number 2, do the same for your physical, audio, and e-reader books. The books on your shelves at home, any audiobooks you've bought but not listened to, and the books on your e-reader, all of these could do with a tidy up too. Don't let this one slip. Removing books you're not interested in from your physical shelves will lift a weight. Removing them from your digital shelves, your e-reader, and audiobooks is honestly worth it too. I know, you're probably thinking, what's the point? They're digital so they don't take up space, and who knows, you might want to read them someday. If they truly don't bother you, then fine. But if you're like me, every time you open your e-reader to pick your next book, you're faced with a bunch of books you don't really want to read, but you bought anyway, and so feel compelled to leave them there and get to them one day. You should be excited to read your next book, not indifferent, so just get rid of them. Number 3, make it a regular task. Reducing our TBR is a lifelong mission, right? So we need to keep up with our TBR over time. If you're a to-do list or task person, set a task every few months to sort through your TBR and stay on top of it. Doing it this way just means that it won't get out of hand and you can take a better look at your books objectively. 4, practice that DNF muscle. Okay, so your TBR is more realistic, it contains books you actually want to read. But what now? How do we reduce it by reading? If getting through your TBR, or more likely reading as many books as you can in your lifetime, is important to you, then you've got to DNF more. By DNFing books you're not actually enjoying, you'll literally make more time to get to the other books on your list. If we have a time limit, life, then we should make this a priority. So stop reading books you don't like. When I first started putting this video together, I was a little sad. I mean, if getting through your entire TBR isn't possible, then well, what's the point in trying? But what has happened for me, and what I hope for you, is that you see your TBR as something fluid and changeable. You don't have to strive for TBR 0 like it's some lifelong goal. Instead, you can use it to prioritize books, to read the things you actually want to read, and to lift that weight of the impossible pipe dream that's TBR 0. But you tell me, is your TBR something you worry about, or do you not even think about it? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.